China's rise to superpower, worldwide condemnation of the Ukraine war, ever-rising energy prices, geopolitical tensions. These were some of the few storylines of the G20 Summit that was held in Indonesia on the 15th and 16th November. In short, it is a meeting where leaders who hate each other act as if they like each other to discuss global economic issues and maintain so-called peace. So the leaders were from countries like US, India, China, Canada, UK and the European Union. The 20 nations account for more than 80% of the world's GDP, 75% of the international trade, and 60% of the population. So you can see that this is like an all-star game. This year's summit was very eventful and had some drama-worthy storylines. So here are some few takeaways from the entire event. Number 1, Putin's absence and the Ukraine war. To nobody's surprise, Putin didn't make an entrance for the G20 summit because of the war. And it wasn't like anybody missed him. He became that menace kid who did crazy pranks and made everyone's life miserable, and now nobody wants to see him at a family reunion. The Russia-Ukraine war remained the focal matter throughout the summit. Most leaders condemned the war in a joint declaration as it is causing human suffering, inflation, food insecurity, and high energy prices. According to a report, although most leaders opposed the war, there were other views and assessments of the situation. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who attended the summit so that the guys could bully him instead of Putin, called the politicization of the summit unfair. But the others didn't care what he had to say. Number 2 is US versus China. The international rivalry between China and US has intensified in the last few years, especially after China's rise to political and trade dominance. And that affects every country. Xi Jinping could very well be the villain for the next John Wick movie. I mean, the guy gives me the creeps. Biden had his first meeting as president with Xi, and fun fact, this was Xi Jinping's first international appearance in 3 years. The talk seemed to center around the Taiwan gimmicks that China did. The US president assured that it still holds onto the One China policy, but did condemn the military drills. We are going to compete vigorously, but I'm not looking for conflict, Biden told the reporters. She said in a statement that the two countries should prevent confrontation and conflict and would strive for an early agreement, he added. An interesting way of looking at this meeting between Xi Jinping and Biden is that the fact that China could meet and talk and come to peaceful terms with a superpower like America itself proves how far China has come to be a world power. The meeting seemed to be positive overall, at least on the outside. Global economy and inflation. Inflation is dangerous, but too much interest hikes to control it is also deadly. You see, America is increasing interest rates of government bonds and debt like crazy. So all the capital is flowing to them because investors want high returns. By that, the country is also reducing the money supply, thereby general prices and inflation. Good for them. But the problem here though is, not every country in the world can increase returns like the US. So capital is flowing out like water from many emerging countries. This concern was brought out at the summit and all agreed that these measures would be temporary and targeted. Lastly, India in G20. Since we are Indians, we gotta focus on India for a bit. The Indonesian president handed over the gavel to Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the next host for the summit. India will be holding an international conference of this scale for the first time. In this meeting, Narendra Modi once again proved that Indians are the best at making punchlines by stating, "Today's era is not of war." Overall, India was in a peculiar position, much like China, by standing on the fence between the West and Russia. This was tested when the West called for boycotting Russian energy. Thankfully, he didn't respond like Jaishankar.
We do buy some energy, which is necessary for our energy security. But I suspect, looking at the figures, probably our total purchases for the month would be less than what Europe does in an afternoon. So you might want to think about it.
He kind of said India's energy security is also important for global growth and that we must not promote any restrictions on the supply of energy. Many other issues like food security and climate change were also discussed. The whole event had some cringe-worthy moments too. Like there were rumors that Joe Biden was using a cheat sheet that told him when to sit and what to speak. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau revealed what he said in a meeting with Xi Jinping without his consent, which seemed to piss the Chinese president off.
Everything we discuss is then leaked to the paper. That's not appropriate.
Anyway, the entire summit went promising. These international face-to-face meetings are always good for world peace. Now we gotta wait and see if these countries will really live by what they agreed on. That's all from my side. I hope you found this video helpful and interesting. If you did, make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.